Expediter Services presents Industry Perspectives. Observations from Mike Welch, president of Magnate Worldwide.
Thank you, everybody. I have to say this is refreshing to come back to a conference like this and see everybody excited about expediting and the business. Like Jeff said, I've been involved in expediting a long time. Started in 1986 as a sales rep. Made the move to start a company. It was an investment of about $4,000 in 1989 at a 1983 cargo van. So it was quite old in 89, and that's before they had a lot of rust proofing on the Ford. So it rusted out quite a bit. I love driving it because when you drive it, it would rattle, and I used to say that's the sound of making money. And I really, really like that van. We also had a pickup truck, Chevy pickup truck with a cap on it. We thought that was more comfortable to drive, but in reality, it could handle less freight. So I always went back to the 83 van when I was driving. So drove for a few years, gradually built the company up. First few years, we didn't even know what an owner-operator was, independent contractor. We had all employee drivers. We had probably 15 trucks at the time. Every truck we bought, as you fleet owners know, it's an excruciating decision. Back then, I just remember like, can we do this? Should we do this? But we would, and it usually worked out fairly well. As we grew the company, we moved to owner-operators, and we were bought in 2005 by a public company. It was more of a financial company. They just sort of disappeared. We found ourselves, after we sold the business, running it again. And then in 2011, we sold it to the majority shares of this company to XPO, or Brad Jacobs, and his group. So then, I lasted there about 10 days after the sale. I thought I'd last a little bit longer, but it didn't fit me. And so I moved on and retired from transportation, thinking I'd probably never get back into it. But after a year or two, I was really hungry to get back in, and we had a new opportunity that we started 2 years ago. It's a company called Magnate Worldwide, and what we do is focus on premium transportation. And we look at premium transportation not just on ground, but air, ocean, any type of freight that customer needs are a little bit more than the general freight world. And the general freight world is a great world for consistent freight, like Paul mentioned earlier, but it's not exciting to us. So we want customers to call us when they really need something. So with one of our old people at Express One, we started Magnate Worldwide, and our goal is to, again, focus on premium freight. Our first year, back in 2015, we bought a company called Trump Card. Our founder was a pinochle player. The company that we bought it, Women in Trucking, we bought it from Marianne Russo, who started this business back in 1989, and she's a huge pinochle player. So what Trump Card does is focuses on high-value freight forwarding. So we move, the Da Vinci robotic machines. We move a lot of the high-end medical machines. We work with Tesla and SpaceX and things like that, and they're very, very big in the West Coast. And I've learned so much from them because I always tell them I'm just a dumb trucker. I know how to get things from A to B, but they really have a nice system that helped grow. But as we looked at Trump Card, we started realizing along the way, and the West Coast specifically, they call them hotshots out there. And a lot of the people out there, as I introduced some of the expedited companies to our people at Trump Card, they were amazed at what we can do and what we're willing to do. So I started getting excited again because the margins and the type of business out there was sort of reminded me of our business back in the late 80s and mid 90s. With Trump Card, our goal was to have an international company, premium company, a ground expedite company, and domestic. So we had that with Trump Card. We recently just bought a company called PTL. It is a premium logistics. It's an Expediter. Some of you may know of them. It's probably a mid-tier company. They have a very good reputation to the customers, but really, frankly, need to grow quite a bit. And as Paul mentioned, if you're small to medium, you're really struggling in this environment. So they need to take it to the next level and grow that, so we purchased them. And just last week, we purchased a company called Masterpiece International. It is the leading art and museum logistics provider in the world. And Panther's, any of you guys here work for Panther? FedEx Custom Critical. So if you're delivering any of the museum pieces for any of those people, you're working for Masterpiece. Right now, FedEx, Custom Critical, and Panther are two of our bigger domestic U.S. vendors. And that is usually done on a white glove service, especially with the straight trucks, because a lot of that is temperature controlled. So as we go, we feel like we found the three-legged stool of offering premium freight. And again, this group, that's what we're all about. We want to be able to offer something. We want to feel good about what we're doing. And really, when you deliver something, I know every one of you have a story. Say, I delivered this. I did this. When I got here, I got to do this. Those are the stories we tell. We don't want to say, well, I delivered a load of cardboard boxes. It's not that exciting. So mine is, I got a call. It was 12 o'clock on a Saturday. I was on call, and the guy goes, yeah, this is Bob from Hootie and the Blowfish. And I don't know if you guys remember them or not in the olden days. And I go, yeah, right. He goes, no, really? And I go, well, how did you get my name? He goes, oh, I just looked you up in the phone book, and Electro-Voice was the microphone manufacturer, which was a customer of ours. He told me about you. So anyway, I got to deliver the microphone there. And by doing that, it was from Michigan to Cincinnati. I was able to go backstage and watch the concert, get pictures taken. And those are the kind of memories that, we wish every shipment was like that, but we were able to do. So it was sort of cool. And from then on, you just tell the stories, and people think you're sort of a rock star yourselves when you tell that. So it really is a neat industry to be in. And one of the things they said is, why do you want to get back in the industry? And those are probably too small to talk about. But we know one thing is Expedite will be here when we're gone. There's always going to be a need for this type of service, depending on which the customers are. When we first started in the 80s, I don't know how many of you guys started here in the 80s, if anybody. It was really, really heavily automotive. And it will continue. Automotive does drive Expedite to a big extent. But now we're seeing more and more shippers look at the value of handling their freight, whether it is a high value freight where we don't want to commingle it with other freight, white glove services that we offer at Masterpiece, whether you have armed security. Some of your companies, the bigger companies like FedEx and Panther, have that unit. Having those units gives you, as an owner-operator or a fleet owner, more opportunities. With Masterpiece, we own an armed security group, so we hope to bring that piece to our new expediting company, Premium Transportation. So you're always looking for these different types of niches within Expedite to help expand our business, because we know it's competitive, so we want to stand out. Another big piece when you work, and I was talking to somebody earlier, it's the, I think it's you over there, Ward, we were talking about Canada. Are you willing to go to Canada? Does your company service Mexico? All these things are important to help you improve your miles, improve the revenue. You cut that field of who you're competing with. There is a lot of small guys out there, and anything we can do to compete with them and offer services that they may not help us as a carrier, but also certainly helps the owner-operators. So it's exciting business. I'm glad to be back. That's our locations. That's sort of a neat slide. We started, like I said, a couple years ago. Blue slides are Masterpiece. The red stars are Trump Card. You see Toledo there in the middle, and Chicago, and some of those were clustered. What I like about this slide is we want diversity of our customer base. We feel as we go, if I send somebody to California, I know I can get freight out of California. Not many of my competitors can. So we feel that as more locations that we involve ourselves in, where we have salespeople on the streets, and if they're not on the streets calling, we're all going to be bid board people. And I think everybody, or people in the industry know what bid board is. It's you're bidding on freight. It's competitive. It's a necessary piece of the business, but you don't want to depend on bid board freight 100%. So we feel it's just like the olden days. You got to go out and sell. And the more services you have to sell, the more opportunities there are for our owner-operators as we move forward. So that's the footprint. That's the dream of our business. That was the dream of the old XPO, as we wanted to be a 100% premium type business, and we choose to do it with owner-operators. Our premium out of Toledo does have about 20 employees still, but we're trying to help them and find ways, and working with Paul and Jason, we really want to find a way to convert them to the owner-operator base also and help them become owners. So we feel very strongly that this business is here to stay. We feel very strongly that other shippers around the world, more of the small to mid-sized shippers, will be using expedited freight. We feel that the straight truck is the #1 unit out there that is needed greatly. We also feel the cargo vans and sprinters might be a little bit oversaturated and may continue to be oversaturated until the economy really turns. But the niche that you're in, or thinking about becoming part of ES is growing, and we feel very, very bullish on that. Why we like to work with ES, we know the proper insurances are there. We know the proper training, vetting, and we also know, we trust what we've worked in the past at Express One. I probably should have said we had 40 trucks at one time, I think, Paul. So 10% of our fleet. It was a great marriage. We feel very good about the business. We have some investors in Chicago, private equity group, that there's literally 5 or 6 big investors that are betting heavily on this industry because they expect it to continue to grow. And we sort of have been in a lull since, 2008. Just like our general economy, it's grown, but it hasn't really exploded like it had in earlier years. But people are thinking it's a good time. We meet with customers. We've met with, we were in Detroit Thursday, and many of the people in Detroit said, boy, it's coming. Do you have the trucks? We said, yes, we have the trucks, but we don't want to do it for cheap. And I don't know if anybody ever worked here for Express One, so unfortunately you probably had some cheap freight. But we try to stay away from that, and they said, trust us, that you're going to be able to name your price. And we really believe that things are looking on the positive side as far as expedited transportation.